Hello, I'm Porschia Parker Griffin, and I want to welcome you to the Career 101 podcast, a place for ambitious professionals and seasoned executives who want an edge in their career. We're talking about all of the things you were never taught or told when it comes to career growth, development, and change. Now, let's get into it. Today, we are talking about Mission 101, Find My Purpose with Dr. Kim Redman. Dr. Kim Redman is the visionary, founder, and CEO of Creatrix Go Quantum. She is a keynote speaker, multiple #1 international best-selling author, board-designated master trainer, quantum program creator, and quantum stage goddess. As a global leader in quantum consciousness and the international founder of the field of quantum leadership, Dr. Kim works with the core competencies, skill sets, and behaviors that allow human potential to expand vertically, bloom, root, and grow. Dr. Kim is Canada's board-designated master trainer in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, and NLP results coaching. Giving back and raising the resonance of those around her are foundational building blocks in Dr. Kim's life. Dr. Kim has been giving back since 1989 when she was recognized by the Arts in Education Society of Lincoln Center for her work with the still existent Chapter 1 program in New York. In 2015, Dr. Kim was nominated as one of the 100 most powerful women in Canada, Maverick category. That is so impressive. Hi, Dr. Kim. How are you today?
I'm well, Portia. Thank you so much. Boy, that's a mouthful.
It is, but I wanted to really touch on a few aspects of your career so everyone understands just how fortunate we are to have you with us today.
I appreciate that tremendously. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to share the messaging of this new time period with your viewers.
Great. We are thrilled to have you with us to discuss Mission 101, Find My Purpose. But first, we want to know a little more about you. So tell me about 7-year-old Kim.
Let's see. 7-year-old Kim was going to go to the Serengeti in Africa and work with saving the big cats and the lions. That was the passion project then, and a huge fascination with Egypt. At 7 years old, I wanted to go. Also, attempting to let people know magic was real. And we now know it as other forms of science and quantum physics and the quantum reality. Absolutely believing in my heart that it was real. And also having experiences, even as a child, that I knew I really couldn't share with adults. For example, my sister had been born, and so they built me a little room for myself off the kitchen, which then was forever away, even though it was a tiny little apartment in the Bronx. And I would get nervous, and I would inevitably wake up sitting on the ceiling of my room watching my body. And my friend of light would come and sit down, and she would talk to me, and she would take me places, and she would teach me things. And by morning, I would need to go back into my body. And like any other little kid, I would whine, 5 more minutes, and she would go back in your body. And then I would tell people about my dreams, except whatever information I came back with was always historically accurate, which egged out the adults in my world.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, Dr. Kim, would be how did other people react to the dreams that you had and the experiences that you shared?
Often not well. it very quickly became, oh, that's just Kim. Kim's very creative. Kim's very intelligent. And I learned to just allow other people to perceive them to be just normal dreams. Even from a child, though, there were the two different kinds. There were the regular dreams, and then there were those dreams.
Wow.
So people ask, when did you wake up? And I say, I popped in awake. There was no incident that drove that. That was just something as far back I can remember, hitting the ground and remembering that there was more.
Wow. So, Dr. Kim, what was your first job?
My first job was actually setting up an entrepreneurial system for babysitting when we were living in Staten Island. I had such a good reputation for working with kids that I was booked out. So I started to train my friends by putting them on the job training with me and then referring them out for a small finder's fee.
I love it. So you were entrepreneurial from the beginning, it sounds.
Right. Having no idea, though, that was what was entrepreneurial.
Mhm.
It just seemed like a fair exchange of energy. And at one point, 3 of my girlfriends were working with me for babysitting, and we were booked out 6 months in advance. So that was at 16.
Wow. Well, and what I take from that too, Dr. Kim, is your leadership skills. I know that you're a leadership expert and a quantum leadership expert at that, but it sounds like your leadership skills were on full display very early on too.
It seems like there seems to be a natural gift to say there's a gap. Let's go fill the gap, as long as it's done with integrity and there's a true need, and it's got to come from the heart.
So tell us about some highlights or pivotal moments in your career before you started this current business that you have now.
Wow, that's a toughie. I believe if we go back to the time when I was touring professionally on stage, and that was such a gift to be able to do for a living the thing that you were just so passionate about. And then what happened was the Chapter 1 program was in development that you spoke to earlier. And because I also had a degree in developmental psychology, which was grandfathered for early childhood in New York State at the time, I was voluntold while I was under contract that I would be part of this project. And what they did was they asked us to go into at-risk neighborhoods where I was patted down for weapons at early childhood schools. We're talking bad neighborhoods, seriously at-risk kids. And they had been written off already for their academics by age 5, 7, and 9 in the program. And they said, let's see if you can use performing arts and what I came to call whole body learning, because we had no other name for it back then, to teach them their subjects in a different way, in a right-brained way. And the evidence procedure would be the New York State standardized test. And these kids did so well that the governor invited them to the mansion for dinner. And watching hope, that spark, come back into their eyes and their heart, giving them back that belief, changed me forever. And it began this journey of using the stage for transformation rather than just for entertainment.
You are so deep, Dr. Kim. You have been doing it, sounds like great work for a long time. What motivated you to decide to start this current business that you have now?
For me, it was a natural progression. I think there's always been this desire to help. I also came from a family of physical abuse. My family, we came out of poverty. I didn't want for anything that I really knew about, but I did know that there were times where we were poor enough where we didn't all eat the same food. And this desire to help others go beyond that pain into what their purpose was, I think, just a natural progression for me. That's where developmental psychology came from. And then this desire to work with at risk kids. And then that started Creatrix and working with granted programs in the United States. And when I moved to Canada and married my soulmate, opening Creatrix up in Canada and figuring the best way to make an impact for the kids is to teach the adults who have the kids, and then beginning to work with parents and families. And then it naturally expanded, always seeking faster, gentler, more authentic ways of allowing us to walk our journey and to giving us a different perspective from being at effect and a victim to what the shamans taught me, where these were our natural initiations. That these really hard times were also times that had huge energy in, that could open up consciousness and awareness, connect us to resources in a way unlike any other time. And it's certainly not that we were enjoying it. I want to be really clear with that. However, these were these opportunities for alchemy to happen, spiritual alchemy, where we could take the lead in our life and turn it into the gold if we could find someone to hold that light up for us. And the universe has just tossed me in the right place with the right people. And I think I've been blessed enough through the hardships to learn how to listen.
Oh, I was reading your book, The Mission Manifesto: Passion, Purpose, and Profit. And in it, you said, your purpose is deep within you. It may take some exploration to find your purpose. While you're exploring, your deep and consistent passions can be your guide. Purpose creates awareness. Awareness creates choices and opportunities to let you live literally on your purpose. So please just tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. I know for myself and pretty much everyone I've ever spoken to. So let's just say it's everyone. We get told by others what might be a good fit for us based on their experience for them. For example, I was strongly urged to go into traditional corporate that never fit. I could never stay there longer than 9 months, maybe, without getting consistently ill because I was in the wrong place for that structure. All of us have, I say, go back to your 7 and your 9-year-old. Who was your favorite superhero and why? And that could be an elder. That could be someone you knew. That could be a character in a book. That could be someone from the Marvel comics. There are many aspects to our personalities where we always loved doing certain things, helping, drawing, working with animals, giving back, making condition better, sometimes tinkering. You might have an engineer archetype or some gifts within us. And if we sit with the things we love, it's very similar to that extraordinary book, What Color is Your Parachute? And that book has been around forever. And it goes through what are things that you're good at, that you enjoy, that you're passionate about, and has unique lists, and then see what jobs match that. For most of us who are coaching, we have done it the traditional way. It didn't work. We found ourselves in transition, wanting to make someone else's life better. And that passion and that purpose often drives us to start our own businesses or to work in companies that have our same mission values. So it's in there if you allow it to be in there.
Yeah, yeah. I love the book, What Color is Your Parachute? I think I have the 2016 version on my bookshelf right now. And I just love how you explain that, Dr. Kim. A lot of people that we talk to struggle with this idea of finding their purpose. And sometimes I've seen it hold them back from taking any action in their career or in their business. Can you tell us how you think people can find their purpose?
Absolutely. I say the fastest way to do it is please come to one of our Designing Your Destiny weekends. They're intimate. There's maybe 24 people virtually live, and we deep dive for you. It's really more giving people an opportunity to uncover what is, and maybe that they haven't allowed themselves to perceive before because someone told them they shouldn't, or maybe someone told them they couldn't. And I want to be really clear. Nobody has to rewrite their life. No one's jumping off of Niagara Falls in a barrel. This, this can be a baby step progression where you're working with this on the side until you can work with this full time, should you choose to. Absolutely, it's in there. It had to be. If you believe that there is a consciousness in the universe and you believe that there is a purpose to it all, then there's a purpose for why you're here. And every single thing that happened to you counts. Every single thing was a petal that unfolded to put you on a certain path. And that path may have been hard, and that path also had wisdom. And if we allow it, we can work with it.
I want to follow up on what you said about someone allowing themselves to perceive. So maybe someone listened to that and they're like, "Hey, I'm going through my day-to-day life, but I don't know how I'm really perceiving at a level to know what my purpose is." What would you say to someone who might think that way?
It's a great perspective. And one of the ancient initiate tools is gratitude. And I want to explain the difference between the abstract, sort of new agey gratitude and how initiates are taught to do something called gratituding. So we've made it into more of a verb. And what it is that every day, and you must write it down. Otherwise, you're just doing a mental exercise, is to take a journal and at either the end of the day about that day or the next morning about the prior day. Oprah does hers in the bathtub, she says, at 5:30 a.m. You write down 5 bullet points about things that actually happened to you that day that pulled you out of your head and into the moment. It could be that you pulled to the side of the road to watch a sunset. It could be that you were in your head with your list of to-dos and just automatically holding the door for a senior citizen. And then they put their hand on your arm and meet your eyes and say, thank you. And you have that real moment. That's a gratitude moment. Gratitude moments often happen when things are really hard. Having a hard day as a parent and wondering, why didn't I become a parent? And then at the end of the night, they wrap their chubby little arms around you and say, I love you. And you remember why you became a parent. That's the gratitude moment. And gratitude is said to be the energy stream that our passion, our purpose, and money and profit come into our lives on. Can also look back on my gratitude journal when it's a bad day. Just reading it will put you in a good mood. And I chuckle because some days I can wax poetic and some days there's a lot of food on my list. Chocolate, a really nice scotch. Now I know that was a hard day. One word, bubble bath, all good. These are the things, and it sounds like it's not connected, yet it is, because if you go back and you read, you will find there are certain things that fill you up that are consistently in your gratitude list. And those things can also be breadcrumbs for you to explore. Maybe it's when you were reading certain passages from books and types of books, or you were out engaged in certain activities. You'll go, hey, look, these are my fill up places. And your fill up places are always going to be attached to your passion and your purpose and ultimately your mission, if you accept it, or you even accept that you have one.
The Career 101 podcast is brought to you by Fly High Coaching, where we help our clients soar to their full potential. More and more professionals and executives are setting out to achieve their career goals. But without the right support, it can be difficult, if not impossible. Whether you need career coaching, interview coaching, or a professional resume, we're here to help. Check us out on our website, fly-highcoaching.com. Good point. So many of our clients who are executives or professionals use the terms purpose and mission interchangeably. What I love is that on the cover of your book, you have this Venn diagram of the three circles for purpose, passion, and profit. And then in the middle, where they overlap, you have mission. And I think this is an excellent way to think about mission from a career or a business context. Can you tell us more about your thoughts on mission and the P3 approach?
Absolutely. And thank you for asking that. You're right. Many executives, I think that's what drove me to actually write the ebook, is so many people were using them separately. And when we approach them through an ancient wisdom's lens, they're very separate. Your passions will lead you to your purpose. A lot of people will find their passions are involved in giving back in some way. They will lead you to your purpose. Now, if you're going to actually do the mission in the real world, that takes resources. If I want to create scholarship, that takes money. If I want to feed the homeless, that takes money. And notice I'm using the word money, not abundance, because I can have a very abundant life without actual cash. And I think as a resource, one of the things for people that are going to work on purpose and have a mission is to follow the universal laws or spiritual wisdom around money. And that is, the more I have, the more I can give. Both Harvard Business School and the church speak to tithing 10%. Beyond that, you can destabilize the system. So if I want to give away or I want to build resources, beginning to look at sustainable profit, beginning to look at return on investment, all the business skills that very often the people who want to give back won't look at. I love Paulo Coelho's books. I love The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran. And Kahlil Gibran's book says, let profit you make be a symbol of your service out in the world. So if you focus on the service, and I want to be really clear here, if you focus on the service, the exchange of that energy is something we call money. And so for all of the executives, yes, please take your business skills with you. please plug those into resources, because the greater the amount of your profit, the more you can give, the more assets you can build, the more you can begin to magnetize. So we need you to be affluent enough to have influence. So this really is a real world application. And to the degree that we can do that is the degree of our reach.
Yeah. So I want to follow up on what you were saying about kind of mission, taking resources and money and also profit. So in the section of your book on profit, you discuss money as a sacred tool, as you were mentioning earlier. But what would you say to someone who is uncomfortable with money and maybe thinks that their purpose and their mission can exist without the profit?
I would say that's not possible in a 3D universe. I actually have a slide on that, if I may. I don't know if I have permission here to share.
We'll also provide, I think, the slide in the show notes because I'm not seeing how I can have you share right now, but we'll make
Okay.
sure
So,
everyone access
well,
to.
I'll describe it. Everybody knows that growth begins at the edge of comfort. And so what we do is we seek to make ourselves comfortably uncomfortable so that we can grow, and we grow and we grow. And yet up here is the service zone, and the growth zone does not touch the service zone. There's a gap, and that gap is known as the esteem zone. And the esteem zone is not just about self-esteem, rather the things that we esteem. And in the ancient wisdom's world, and this was so me, keep in mind, I came from poverty. I was not good with the concept of money. And it was some of my wisdom teachers who said to me, "Do you believe that you're here for a purpose?" And I said, "Absolutely." "Do you believe that the divine is guiding you on the purpose?" And I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Then why do you believe that the divine would hold back the symbol of exchange that you need to do your mission?" And then they said to me, by rejecting money, by following poverty programming that comes from fear rather than spiritual programming that comes from love, you're rejecting the divine mission, because you can't do your mission in the real world without real world resources. The food has to come from somewhere. If we're building homes, we need to be able to put money in the bank for those people. If we are feeding people, somebody needed to buy the food.
Mhm. Yeah.
Real world mission takes real world resources. I'm on one of the blessed to be on the board of Girls Matter. It's one of the charities that we gift back to, and they're building schools and sending girls to school in Africa and in other places. That actually takes real world money. And there's ways of making it sustainable so that the girls are creating crafts that are sold in the villages, that are sold in the cities, that come back for a purpose. There's many ways of doing this. However, in ancient wisdoms, take a breath. If you're having issues with money, you're having issues with your own power and self-esteem.
Very well said. Very well said. Also, in your book, you discuss passion traps for people to avoid, such as leaving their job without a transition plan, believing talent can take the place of skill, and thinking that you could and or should do it all by yourself. How
Oh
can
my goodness.
Yes. Yeah, we see that one a lot as coaches.
We see it a lot. We see it a lot as coaches.
Yes. How can people actively avoid passion traps in their careers?
That is so simple. Mentorship and coaching. If anywhere in the back of your head, vicious independence is kicking in, we have a word for vicious independence. It's called poverty. Whether you are following sacred geometry to make the seed of life, which is yourself and the 5 people around you, whether you are attempting to figure it out on your own. One of the biggest differences between people who are perceived of as highly successful versus people who are not, and I want to differentiate here as consciously successful. So they're coming from a self-worth paradigm where valuing self and other is part of this headspace that they are in, is they reach out for resources faster. If I don't know how to do it, someone else does. And if I can't figure it out on YouTube, I've got a 24-hour window before I reach out and say, does anybody else know how to do this? Any place that you're recreating the wheel, you are wasting time. And we all have the same 24 hours. So if you're wasting that 24 hours attempting to figure out the recipe rather than borrowing a great recipe for cookies, I would say that's silliness and perhaps a bit of ego. And the people who do that the most, and I know because I train so many of them, and I am one of them, are the talented people. Because talented people use their talent to hide the gaps in their skills. People who are less talented usually climb higher in corporate because they're used to seeking out the gaps in those skill sets and filling them.
Yeah.
So for all of you out there who are talented, I'm telling you, you've got a community. Come on in. We'll figure it out together so your talent becomes an asset and the icing on the cake and not a liability, just a sugar cake.
I love it. I love the analogies. And Dr. Kim, you made me think of something is that I heard when it comes to entrepreneurs that most entrepreneurs are actually C students. They're not usually the A students. And I think it's to your point where the C students are looking for the help. They're open to asking for help and maybe getting other people to help them with certain parts of it, where the A students sometimes are struggling in that vicious independence that you mentioned to do it on their own. So thank you for sharing that. And I want to piggyback on that. You've given us a few, but from your perspective, what are some of the biggest challenges you've seen executives and professionals have with finding their purpose? So we know the vicious independence and then recreating the wheel, but outside of those sorts of things, what are some challenges you've seen?
I think the single biggest factor on sustainable success is emotional intelligence. And that is something that none of us pop out of our mama with. And as part of emotional intelligence is a willingness to just lay down the social media lie of perfection, lay down that mask of some facade that the ego wants us to present out to the public and to say, I'm a real human. And as a real human, you may be seeing me in my highlight reel right now. However, please avoid comparing my highlight reel to your blooper reel or vice versa when we're learning and growing. And I remember one of the first Facebook Lives I ever did. I couldn't get the tech right. I was on a device, a portable device. I was sideways. And that's how it got uploaded, with me sideways. And all the students were going, take it down. And I said, no, I'm going to leave this up for 6 months so that others can see you can be a red hot mess, to quote Brendan Burchard. Can I have a hallelujah for being a red hot mess on a Monday, says Brendan. Can we just all, and just keep going? It's a red hot mess, and we're going to get through it together anyway. And I think that number one factor of being willing to laugh at yourself, to have a sense of humor, to get curious, to share what you're doing so that someone else can come up that path faster. That's how we have a hand up to our mentors and a hand down. And that is literally how we rise together.
Wow. I know that there are going to be some people, Dr. Kim, who listen to this episode again, or maybe multiple times. Thank you for sharing that. And we actually do have an episode, I think it was episode 22, that we did on emotional intelligence. And you're right. I think that is so important in the workplace. So tell us more about your book and your business.
Oh, I'd love to. It is a privilege to be running Creatrix Go Quantum, for sure. We have 2 sections of our business. One are professional designations that allow people who are up-leveling or in transition to take everything with them. And those designations are good in 42 countries, which is a big deal. And the other side is where where spirit and neuroscience meet for consciousness, awareness, leadership. We are in a brand new time period. And consciousness, emotional intelligence, the willingness to be cooperative instead of competitive are some of these critical pieces that are allowing us to build in this new reality. And that's where the polarity is coming from right now, because you have the 2 bookends between the old way and the new way. And what we're really saying to people, and I was just at a lecture with Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden and Deepak Chopra, we're all saying this is a time period of hope, because all of this chaos energy can get channeled into creative energy. It's just raw fuel. So if we want to really assist people who want to step up, who want to step in, want to do it sustainably, want to do it through the right lens, there's a right way and a wrong way to show up as the best that you can be, so you can be in service to others. And that has got to always include you. Because in our fields, we are the product. We are the product. So whether people are just looking for designing your destiny and then do the deep dive weekend, or they're looking to actually up-level their professional designations to give them more flexibility and legitimacy and the ability to make impact, we're here. We're here.
We'll be providing a link to your website and other social channels in our show notes so people can find you online. But what is the best
Lovely.
way for someone to get in touch with you? Maybe if they want to learn more about your Design Your Destiny events or any of the training that you have.
Great question. I would say, well, we are available on most of social, so you can reach out and DM me there. If you're really looking for personal response from me, email me, Dr. Kim at Creatrix. It's like the Matrix, Creatrix, creatrixgoquantum.com. Send me an email. And Porschia, I would suggest that they actually name Fly High Coaching on the subject line, so I know, and I would be more than happy for myself and my team. We'll actually sit down and answer you. If you want to have a Zoom cup of tea, which would be the next reach out from there, we'll do that too. Anything that we can do to serve or to assist, we want to do.
That is amazing. And I know some people are going to take you up on that.
We hope so.
Now, Dr. Kim, I want to ask you our last question that we ask all of our guests. And that is, how do you think executives or professionals can get a positive edge in their career?
The soft skill sets around leadership. Hands down, that means communication skill sets. And that's actually why we train the NLP multiple designation workshop. The majority are executives and coaches that are looking to get those communication skill sets, conscious leadership skill sets, emotional intelligence. If you've got that trinity going on, you are going to soar above anybody else in your field, because the reality is people, humans, are our biggest resources.
Dr. Kim, you've shared a lot of wisdom with us today, and I'm sure that our listeners can use it to be more confident in their careers and with their businesses. We appreciate you being with us.
Thank you so much for having me on today, Portia. It's been a lot of fun.
This episode was brought to you by the Bravebird Career Alliance, the go-to membership designed for seasoned executives and ambitious professionals with everything you need for career planning, strategy, training, and support. Thank you again for listening to the Career 101 podcast. I hope you have at least one key takeaway that you can use in your own career. If you enjoyed hanging out with us, please rate, subscribe, and share this podcast. Until next time, here's to your success.